Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rumcast. This is the podcast that talks all things rum-related with the people who love and shape it. My name is John Gulla. Hosting with me is Will Hookinga. And today, Will, this is a very special episode because we get to introduce and discuss something that it's entirely new for us. It's brand new. We've done this podcast for years now, and this is something completely different. So I'm really excited to talk about this and introduce it to people.
We're fish out of water right now, John, but we're swimming. Or we're trying to swim. You know, I don't know how useful that is when you're out of water. We're just flopping around on land, but hopefully we'll flop our way into something interesting.
We'll evolve. Yes.
It will evolve. We'll grow little rum-finding legs.
We're coelacanths. No, is that the right term? Sorry.
I have no idea. I don't know what the early next evolution creatures were called. So
I'm pretty sure that was it. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Whatever it was. Hey, that might be a good name idea to save for later in the show.
Coelacanth rum. There you go.
There's no bad ideas in a brainstorm. Okay. Let's not bury the lead. We are buying a cask of rum and doing our own rum release, and we are going to document the entire process on the Rumcast.
Yeah.
So, and by buying a cask, what we don't mean we're just gonna get some samples and taste them and say, yes, we want this one. We will be going in person together to taste through and pick a cask that speaks to us, that we think is awesome, that we just can't resist sharing with everyone else. So
it's a journey. This is a journey. Yeah.
It's a journey. It's a journey, and we're taking the Rumcast with us. This is something we've talked back and forth about doing over the years a lot, and I feel like we could just never quite find the way to do it that we thought would be fun and worthwhile. Right. Obviously, we could do something like a barrel pick, or partner with an independent bottler or something, or a distillery and select a sample that they send us, and this is the Rumcast pick, and that would be fun. Like, barrel picks are really cool. It's great when rum clubs do that, and I support that 100%. But we always wanted to, if we were going to put something out there, do it in a way where it's something interesting for the show, right? Something where we can learn and go through and take people along the process with us. And so we wanted to find entertaining ways to do that. And we did that kind of on accident when we had the first E&A Shear episode, and they took us through their blending tool, and we made up, we acted as if we were a rum brand,
Actual
trying to
customers with money.
To come up with a blend. Exactly. And then they surprised us by creating a hypothetical blend and sending it to us, and Eric K from Holmes Key, got wind of it and contacted us and said, hey, what if we release this through Holmes Key? And we did that, and it led to the Fiji Single Origin, which is an amazing rum, and that was a really cool, fun, interesting way of bringing that out. But we wanted to
numerous awards, by the way.
Numerous awards. That's true.
So I know we've talked about Rum Awards on the show in the past and our mixed feelings about them, but the point is, it's won a lot of those awards over the years it's been out. So something's right about it.
The most validating thing is just I feel like anytime I see a review or mention of that rum online, it's like people gush about it as much as you and I did, right? So, but anyway, I think so. The concept of releasing our own rum in some way was always interesting to us, not in the sense of trying to start a business or become an independent bottler or anything like that, but just, man, it would be cool to go to a place and taste through their casks and find something super interesting that we're passionate about and be able to bring that, to the US, allow people who listen to the podcast who are like us and just want access to more good rum to be able to access another great rum.
Yeah.
And the more we thought about it, we were just I feel like the only way to do this would be to do it in the most difficult way possible, which would be to just literally travel, pick out a cask, come up with our own brand, our own label, our own bottle. Not just the most challenging way, but it would be interesting to do it in this way, and to take people alongside with us,
and to document it, right?
Encounter all the challenges along the way, and learn stuff about the process and everything. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I think it's exactly like you said. It's We're not trying to do anything that anybody hasn't already done before, right? I want to make sure we characterize this in a way where we're not coming in and saying like, hey, we're going to bring something in that, it's
we're
never
revolutionizing.
been done.
We're revolutionizing rum is what we're doing.
Not at all, right? What we're doing is we're saying, hey, we know that this process exists, right? We've seen how this works from the outside.
Yeah.
Now we get to see how it works kind of from the inside.
Right.
And most people are never going to get that experience except for us trying to bring them along with us.
Right.
So that I think is the perspective we're going for.
We want to let listeners be flies on the wall, basically, in a fun way. Flies, it sounds kind of like they lead a boring life. I think this will be a more entertaining kind of fly on the wall experience. But
people on the wall, they're going to be people on the wall.
Yeah.
Wait,
and like you said, we've talked to so many producers over the years, bottlers and stuff, and so we've gotten to know this process a little bit more. But there's no substitute for actually going through it yourself in terms of a learning experience. That we think this will also broaden our perspective to be able to bring to future conversations with other people and make those even more interesting. So with all that said, I think the question that might be on people's minds right now is, where are you going to go to buy a cask? You know, where are we going to take listeners along this journey with us? So where are we going, John?
We are going to travel to the United Kingdom. We're going to fly into London and then head over to Liverpool to go to the Main Rum Company.
That's right.
Very, very thankful. And, we got to talk with Ian Hoyles recently of Main Rum Company. And that kind of sparked that idea, I think, in some way, as Will was mentioning, for us to go there and be in person to chat with him and some of the others from Main Rum Company and EA Shear to show us, hey, we not only do we get to look for a cask that we want to see and bring, but also just to experience what Main Rum is doing in person, to see what that looks like, to document some of that as well. And again, we're not the first to ever do this, right? I know, Matt Petrick and Rum Porter and some other people have done some of this also. But, we think that we can bring a particular perspective to doing it that we think will be fun in a longer format, right, of a podcast.
Yep, exactly. Our plan is to go there at the end of January. So that's when we'll be flying to London and going to Liverpool, tasting through casks, and as you said, hopefully documenting as much of that process as we're allowed to be able to share with listeners. But going inside the warehouse at Main Rum, and we should just brief context, by the way. I know a lot of people who have listened to some of our episodes with Main Rum. If you're unfamiliar, Main Rum is basically the most well-known broker of aged rum casks, like aged single cask rum in the world, probably. And they're located in Liverpool. Like we said, they have rums from all over the world, spanning all ranges of ages, all types of cooperage. This is, if you've purchased a bottle from an independent bottler before, the odds are pretty good that it was sourced from Main Rum. It's not like 100% chance, but it's pretty high that it came from Main Rum if it's a single cask aged rum from an IB. So it was kind of a natural place to start. And as John said, we've talked to Ian Hoyles over there. We've talked to the folks at E&A Shear who own the Main Rum Company. So it was kind of a natural idea to go to a place like this first, where we can taste a wide range of rums and hopefully find something that we just can't pass up on. So that will only be one aspect of this process, though. So what we're planning to do, starting with this episode, is take you inside all the other elements, not all, because some of it's going to be boring. We don't need an episode where we're like, figuring out how to do customs things and stuff like that. Right, but
some of the major decisions that need to take place in order for this to be a product at the end of the day.
Major decisions, major debates. Who knows? Because this is a shared vision that we'll have to come to. And like we said, we want to go through all aspects of this as if we're the people putting it out. Well, we will be the people putting it out, but that means we need to create some sort of brand for this. It means we'll have to figure out the bottle. It means we'll have to figure out the label. And if you listened to our best bottle label design episodes, that John and I, we have a Venn diagram overlap of taste in label and bottle design, but it's not 100%. It's probably more like 55% maybe. If I'm being, I think it's 50%, 55%. Somewhere in there.
It depends. I think certain things, yes. Other things, maybe it's closer to 40-45%.
Well, no, if you're talking about the whole of everything, I'm saying obviously there's some stuff that's way outside.
Yeah.
But I think that, about half of stuff
Okay.
we
About
probably
half.
both like.
We can agree on that. Just to start, not start the disagreements so soon.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we want to take you into the interesting aspects of this process because there's so many ins and outs of it that we are discovering and learning, and we're expecting to encounter challenges and, didn't expect that to happen or didn't expect that to go wrong. And so we want you to ride the roller coaster with us as we go through all that. Today, though, we will be tackling the idea of naming. So we need to come up with something to call this. I mean, I don't think we just want to call it Rumcast Rum or something like that.
Yeah.
That doesn't have a great ring to it. Also, before we dive into the naming, we should say, I think a natural question, and we discussed this a little bit. We did a kind of a preview of this as a bonus episode for patrons about a month ago, but I think a natural assumption people might make is, like the Rumcast guys are, creating their own brand, or they want to be an IB, that kind of thing. This is like a business venture for them. And you and I really aren't looking at it that way. It's really, our goal with this is to try it once, to break even. So we just want to not lose money on this. We're not really going for hefty profits or anything. We want to keep the margins pretty thin. So hopefully also we can bring something that's accessible and affordable for what's in the bottle for everyone. That's a goal of ours. But really, this is the journey is the goal. What's the saying? The journey is the reward. That's kind of how we're looking at this. Getting to share this experience with listeners. That's the whole reason we're doing this. It's not to start a rum brand. But at the same time, you and I both appreciate great packaging, great cool brands and stuff like that. So we may as well try our best to get that stuff right?
Yeah. Ultimately, we don't know what's going to come of this, but it is not our intention, right? We're not starting up anything. We're trying to put out one release that we believe in.
We're thrashing around and flopping on the beach. That's what we're doing, right? To continue the analogy from earlier.
But at the same time, I would hope our thrashing is productive.
Yeah, productive thrashing is what we're aiming for. So really, this is about...
There's the first name suggestion. Productive thrashing.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, I like it. But at the end of the day, this is really about fun, about learning, and getting to do something in person as well, which we sadly don't get to do that often. So it's going on an adventure together and bringing you along with us. But that adventure starts, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
That's right. Ooh, you're full
fighting,
of them today. That's great.
I'm full of it. Yeah, I'm just going, rattling them off. Fighting over names.
Cliche sayings, rum.
Yeah. Trite rum. That's how we're starting things today. So, John, I think rather than we have both, I think, done some independent brainstorming on name ideas, not just names, but what's in a name? What do we want this name to evoke, to represent? What's inspiring this name? So I think rather than just throwing out our list of, I have a long list of mostly very bad ideas. I'm sure you have one as well. But before we get into those ideas specifically, we want to talk a little bit about just what, our perspective on naming and that sort of thing.
Well, and also how that ties into the perspective of what we're doing. There's some givens here, right? We're looking for a high strength, not necessarily cask strength, but it might be cask strength rum, right? No additives, obviously. All of the stuff you would expect from listening to the Rumcast. We are going after that. So keep that in mind, that our perspective is going to be a single cask or single barrel release that's going to be, essentially straight from the barrel and into the bottle. So that's number one, is when we're thinking about a name and a branding, essentially, it's not just the name, it's kind of going along with the branding and the concept. That's where you start. And to your point, I also do want to mention, right, there's some ones that we ought to think about. Like you said, Rumcast Rum doesn't really work. And I think it was Eric K that had said when he found out, you got to name it Rum Cask with a K at the end. And I was like, I mean, I get his point of like, well, that's the obvious one in a way, like name it Rum Cask. But there's problems with that. Number one, obviously, it's too hard to differentiate verbally, right, between the two. And number two is I think there's already a Rum Cask club or people in Europe.
There is.
We wouldn't want to impinge upon that in any way. Yeah.
In the UK, Rum Cask, that is Indy. Indy is the guy behind Rum Cask.
Yes, Indy, that's right.
Yeah, and I think they do some importing, maybe, and educational stuff, so they do great work. So yeah, we're already close enough to Rum Cask.
Exactly.
We don't want to step on it any further. So
right.
Yeah. So John, why don't we take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll just dive headfirst into this crazy naming conversation. All right, we are back and ready to dive into figuring out what the hell we're going to call this thing. But John, before we do that, I have a little surprise for you. I teased this to you a little bit before we started recording, but I didn't reveal what it was. I was just like, hey, I've got something that I want to share, and it's going to be fun, and I don't want to spoil it. So there's only been one other time, I think, in our history together that we've had to think a lot about naming something, and that was when we named this podcast itself the Rumcast.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I had not looked back for this, but our ideas that we came up with before deciding on the Rumcast are documented. And through the magic of Gmail search, I was able to find lists from both of us of rum names. And actually, the date on this email is October 10th, 2019. We are recording this October 24th, 2024. So this was 5 years ago, if you can believe that.
Just over, yeah.
Over 5 years ago. So
crazy. It seems like it was yesterday, but also I know how much we've done since then, so it's weird to have a duality with that.
There was a whole pandemic in between that.
I don't remember anything about this, by the way, so
I know,
this is going to be great.
I didn't remember any of these any of these podcast names, so I just want to quickly run through some of them. I'll run through your list. You actually had two lists. You had one which is names that have rum in the name, and then you had a list of names that don't have rum in the name.
Okay.
And then I'll share some of my list as well, so I'm not just going to put you on the spot. So here's a few of your names. There's like 20 here, so I can't go through all of them. We have Rum for All and All for Rum.
It's a little long.
Maybe you give these a quick rating on a scale of 1 to 10. What you think? I'll throw some out and give them a rating.
3.5.
Rum Refuge.
That's not terrible. Like I could see something like that, like a blog or something.
It's not terrible. Yeah,
I'll go with 6.5, 7.5, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rum Explorers.
I mean, it's very generic, but there's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong.
Also 6, 5.
Also, the Rumcast is in this list, so you may have been the first between us to come up with that.
Yeah.
Some of your non-rum names, Spirit Animals.
I love that.
That's a great name.
I think it's a fucking awesome. If this wasn't just rum, I would 100% make a podcast called Spirit Animals. It would be amazing.
It's the kind of name where I'm like, surely there has to be something named that already, because it's so good. Okay, we also have In High Spirits.
Yeah, that one's on the low end there.
Okay, I'll give you a few of mine. Oh my god, I'll give you the worst one of my list first. Rum Diet.
Oh my god. That sounds like some sort of like a soda rum product with less calories.
That's horrible. Horrible. Rum Demystified.
I get it. Again, that
corny.
Could be almost like maybe more of a book title.
Yeah.
And yet still comes off feeling a little condescending. Yeah.
Yeah. A few others. Rum Ration, Rum Chat, Rum Journey, Rum Cabinet, Rum Explorer, The Rum Report. I think that was one of yours as well. Anyway, you can see...
Rum Ration's not terrible.
Yeah, it's okay. But in your response to me, you said, here's my short list. You had the Rum Cabinet. You kind of liked that one. The Rum Report. And then you listed the Rumcast. So I think we both clearly, like, quickly coalesced around Rumcast and went with it. But anyway, a fun little trip down some of our previous bad to okay to decent ideas before we get into our next naming adventure together.
You're saying came up with Rumcast in exactly 3 emails, was it? Or was it more than that?
No,
hey,
it was
that's
like
not too bad.
Like 3 emails. Yeah.
It's not terrible. This is going to be wholly different, though, because now we're in real time doing this, right? We don't have the convenience of sitting on something for a while.
Yep.
Although I will say, look, we don't have to come up with the name in this episode, right? We're going to try. We're going to give it a wholehearted effort. But if at the end of the day we're not feeling something equally, we got to sit on it a little bit. We'll come back to it.
Yeah, I think a decision like this rewards contemplation a little bit. You know, we don't want to just force ourselves into something.
Rum.
Contemplation rum. See, we're already getting there. Okay, so let's talk about, as we were saying earlier.
Yeah.
When you were thinking about naming something, what to you goes into this?
So there's a lot. I'm going to take them kind of one at a time, and maybe we can bounce back and forth between some of these, and we're probably going to have some in common. But the first one that I'm thinking of is that I feel like this would be cool to have it somehow have a limited feel to it, or that almost like you kind of need to be in the know, like for it.
Super exclusive rum.
Yeah, but without that
members
kind
only,
of like...
members only rum.
Yes, members only rum. Inner circle.
We could have the little jacket on the label.
God. No, oh God. I was transported back to the 90s or the 80s there.
We could wear members only jackets when
members
we go
only.
to events and stuff like that.
Rumbers only.
God.
Rummers only. There you go. Inner circle rum was kind of where I was going with that. Of like, oh, it's kind of like something that's not snooty. It's not like you just said, like doesn't give that kind of vibe.
That's one of the Bin Lee brands, right?
Yeah, it's one of the Bin Lee brands. Yep.
Yeah.
And I like that name of like because the whole, remember when we talked with Steve about that, was like you kind of had to know somebody, and then you could get that release.
Okay.
And I don't think we're trying to make it like you have to know somebody to get this, but clearly it's going to be limited, right? This is 1 barrel, and 1 barrel's not going to take you very far in terms of bottles. We haven't decided on size yet, right? So there's a few things still to be thinking about, but it's not going to be a rum that's widely available. And you listen to this podcast, you're going to know about it. People outside of this, they may not know about it. So there was something there that I was trying to get to with it that I'm not sure I got anywhere. But at least that's the sense that it gave me. I'll give you my really, really bad rum name for this would be something like Inner Sanctum, right?
Oh my God.
It's terrible.
That's like that's a Dungeons and Dragons kind of name. When I hear the word sanctum, it makes me think of that kind of imagery.
Yeah, or sanctuary, but again, that gives a wrong impression of something. But that was a thought, at least. I don't know if you felt anything like that, but I was trying to get to the limited availability of it.
See, I think where my brain goes when you bring that up is I think I gravitate more toward like the idea of a tight-knit community as opposed to something that feels exclusionary, That's
fair. Yeah.
And I'm not saying you were trying to be exclusionary.
No.
But I think one of the cool things about rum is that as you get into this category, as you become more of a rum enthusiast or whatever, when you meet other rum enthusiasts, it just, I don't know, it just feels different to me. And I guess I don't really have anything to compare it to because I've never been an enthusiast of another spirit category. I like other spirit categories, but I'm not a nerd on this level with any other spirits. So I don't really know what those communities are like, but I think the rum community is it's just warm and friendly, and it's tight knit. It's like easy to get to know anyone who's in it. I mean, we've said this before, but for our 3rd podcast episode ever, when we didn't really know anybody, we sent Richard Seal a message on Facebook and got him to come on our podcast. I just feel like that type of thing probably isn't as easy in other categories. So that type of vibe, like speaking to the community, because I also think what we're doing is this is like by rum enthusiasts for rum enthusiasts.
Exactly.
And I think that's a common angle for IBs, but I think our goals are a little bit different than most IBs in that, again, we're not trying to build like a viable spirits business on top of this. We're trying to build one that doesn't go under, but we're not trying to like, build up something that's going to make, millions of dollars or whatever. Exactly. Not that everyone who's doing IB stuff is in it for that. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to paint us as like these, altruistic saints or anything like that. I just mean, we're doing this for fun and to hopefully not lose money. So anyway.
Just to cap it off before you go to your next, I think I was looking for something a little bit more like, hey, this is something special.
Yeah.
But to your point about like by the rum community for the rum community, I think that also captures it.
Yeah. Actually, I just wrote down a little. I don't know if this is a name. It's just like a little saying that I kind of think is catchy and interesting and kind of gives the vibe a little bit. I wrote down "friend of a friend." It's almost like
okay, yeah,
like you like if you're a listener of our show, we've become friends with so many listeners of our shows through things like the Patreon community and happy hours, or just running into people at events and talking to them there, even just exchanging emails with people over the years and stuff like that. So
agreed.
I feel like the people who will be picking up this release are people I already know to an extent.
In the network.
So, so it's like a friend of a friend, like you got it through a friend of a friend. I don't know, something like that. It just struck me as like a catchy little thing I wrote down.
I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the way I was thinking about this, I was trying to think about like what type of name do I think will be good, but also what do I want the name to convey? And I think there are a few categories of stuff that I came up with. One of them is similar to what you were describing, which is like the rum enthusiast / community / you're going through this journey with us kind of name. So that was one thing, trying to convey that warm, accepting, inviting feeling that the rum enthusiast community has given both of us, I think. And also, I think it could be some fun opportunities to, not necessarily in the name, but maybe in what's on the label, like do little winks and stuff that like only rum enthusiasts would pick up on. Like, not necessarily an Easter egg, but just like a little, like the way something is phrased, something that if you're a rum enthusiast, like, oh, like this is for me, these guys are like my people, that kind of thing.
In the know, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's similar to what you were describing.
Yeah.
The other one was, is there a way to come up with a name that is also a nod to the podcast name? And
that is a tough one. Yeah.
That one is tough because the podcast name is the Rumcast. So it's like half of the name of the podcast is the word rum, which like obviously we can have name ideas that have rum, but just seeing the word rum isn't going to make people right away think of the podcast. And then the other half of the word is cast. So I actually came up with some ideas around that, which we can discuss later. But that was just another thing. I was thinking about, the Bourbon Pursuit podcast. They have Pursuit Spirits, right? Which is like a very neat tie-in. It's kind of hard. It's hard for us to do that with our name, unless we just wanted to call it Rumcast Spirits or something, which that just feels like an extremely boring name to me.
Yeah,
so
it's lazy.
Yeah. And then the last thing was, when I think about rum and when we talk about rum, what are recurring themes that come up over and over again? And one of those themes is how rum is the most like the true global spirit, the most diverse spirit, just in terms of the flavor, the range of flavors that you can get from the category, the range of styles, the range of geographic locations and cultures and everything that go into rum. Is there a name that can evoke those elements? Because I think part of what we want to do with this, and this feeds into also like the philosophy of what we want to do with this. And, we're starting with doing this once. We hope that ultimately people really enjoy this and dig it and enter into it. And maybe it could become like a once a year type thing for us.
Annual, right.
Yeah, an annual release. Mm-hmm. This year we're going to Main Rum. Maybe in the future we go directly to a distillery. But I think part of what we're going to want to do with this release is showcase sort of the breadth and depth of rum that is available in the world.
Yes.
I think at the end of the day, what we're really looking for is, wherever we're going, is there something that just knocks our socks off, that we think is exceptional in some way, different, unique, interesting, atypical. But I think through the course of searching for things like that, I think that, let's say we fast forward 5 years from now and we've done 5 of these annual releases. what I would hope to see is something where it's like just stuff from all over the world, right? There's not like a pattern. It's not just 3 Jamaican rums and a Barbados and a Guyana or something like that, which even within that,
Exactly.
there's a stunning range of flavor. But
Right.
I think what people are going to get from this is, wow, there's so much great rum being made all over the place, and it varies so much. So is there a name that can speak to that? Is something I was thinking of.
Let me speak to that point also a little bit, which is, number one, I think I agree with exactly what you're saying there. And to that point of, it's not necessarily that, we're looking or avoiding things that are standards, I guess you would say, that are well known, like Barbados rum and Jamaica rums and some of the distilleries that we talk about all the time that we both love, right?
Yep.
But they're present here, and there's good IBs that are bringing in really great expressions. And it doesn't mean we would never look at something like that. But I think to your point, Will, something I was also thinking about and hoping for was to bring new experiences.
Yeah.
So because of rum's global nature, because of rum's breadth and depth, as you mentioned and said, well, I think that's something that we can explore and we want to continue to explore. And because we don't have the pressure that other IBs would have for trying to make money and saying, hey, we're going to put out a product we feel good about, will return our investment, we're not bound to that in the same way. So because we're not bound to that the same way, I think we can almost take a little bit more risks with something that we truly believe in, even if it's not a profile that we feel like would please the masses.
Right.
I guess you might say. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and at the end of the day, our aim is to buy one cask. In one cask, there's generally 220, 250, like somewhere in there, bottles. So, we don't have to aim for something that is going to have mass appeal, right? Yeah. Because this is a rum for the diehards. That's also not to say we're just gonna like whatever the most esoteric, weird thing is that we can find. Like, we're not going and being like, where's your highest strength DOK or whatever. Like, we're aiming for something
more
that
esters, more.
Oh man. Yeah. So that's kind of, those are the 3 buckets of names, and I think there can be crossover between those potentially, but those are kind of what I was thinking about.
I also wanted to mention I had a similar one with regards to the journey, as you mentioned. I think that's an important piece here, and there's a little bit of a weird thing here that I want to try to tease out a little bit, and maybe you can help me, which is it's our reputation here in a way, right? We're picking this rum, and we talk to a lot of people, and we have our palates that many people agree with. We do rums of the year, and we love hearing feedback from that, and oftentimes people agree with our picks there. So we're trusting our palates and our reputation here, but at the same time, we also don't feel like we're any more well equipped than anybody else to do this, right? We're not presenting ourselves as like,
we're not sages.
Buy this from us because we're freaking amazing. Like, that's not what I want from this.
Yeah.
So, but there's a little bit of a give and take there somehow, and I don't know how exactly to present that in a way.
You don't want it to come off like pompous or,
of course,
or like we're our palates are uniquely great, so that's why you should get this rum.
Right. Or that, hey, look, we've discovered this rum and are bringing it like, that is not something I'm interested in. And yet we do have a sense of wanting to explore, right?
Right.
And we are using our palates to explore, and there's that element of it.
Right.
Yeah.
We're 100% aligned there. I think the image of the independent bottler adventurer guy going out on a boat or a journey or a quest
little
or
brown
whatever,
satchel on it,
exactly, and like finding
Fedora.
some lost cask or something and bringing it back, like that's really played out. B, it's usually bullshit. and C, we don't take ourselves that seriously, so we're in alignment there. I think another category of names is also just something that speaks to like the experience of listening through this, right? Like, I think that's a unique element of what we're doing that other releases don't come with. Like, I can't think of another release where it's like, hey, here's a series of a few podcast episodes you can listen to hear the actual full story behind how this bottle came to the shelf. And by the way, one quick programming note is we want to make clear that like it's not like between now and when this process is over, all of the episodes are going to be about this. We're still going to be doing. We have some great interviews scheduled. We have other stuff coming up. You know, we're
regular
gonna be doing
programming will not be interrupted.
Regular programming will not be interrupted. These episodes will just be sprinkled in with the regular stuff. So on that note, though, do we? Is there more to say, kind of about how you're thinking about the name, or do we want to actually maybe throw out some of our ideas that we've scribbled down and just see where they lead us? We can, you know, vamp a little bit on these.
No, I think we covered it. So yeah, let's start throwing out some names, and I think that will eventually lead right back into some broader level discussion anyway.
So on the note of names, we were just talking about trying to come up with a podcast tie-in name. Can I give you the name I came up with that I think is like the closest we're going to get to something that is kind of interesting, but that I'm not really sold on this name. I just think it has a nice ring to it, and it has a lot of interesting, like, multiple connotations, I think, which that's something that's interesting to me. I like stuff that can have multiple meanings.
Okay, hit me with it, and then I've got one for you that's going to be more boring than yours, but still might be something. Okay.
So I was trying to think, obviously, as I said earlier, just using the word rum doesn't do anything if we're wanting to tie it back to our name. The word cast is really the only thing we can work with. So I was like, let me try working with the word cast. And the closest thing I came up with, casting spirits.
No, wait. Okay, sell me on this. Casting spirits.
So there's multiple meanings with this. Casting, shorthand for podcasting. Like we are...
I get that part.
We're casting the spirits. There's also an element of casting that is there's a connotation of searching or hunting for something, almost like fishing. You know, you're casting, you're trying to find something out there. Okay. And then there's also an element of magic to it, casting spells. And I think there's a magic to a great rum. So there's just these multiple little tie-ins. Again, John, I know I'm reaching, but I just wanted to give it the old college try to see if there's a way to tie in the podcast name. It was kind of funny to me that I think this name it's the same structure as raising glasses, right? It's verb ing plus plural noun.
Yeah, and the gerund.
Yeah,
using the gerund. Yeah.
So anyway, that was the closest I could come up with. I don't think it's a fit.
Well, number one, my critique is, so you were trying intentionally to go away from having rum in the name, but then it feels weird not to have it. Casting spirits could be anything.
And I'm not intentionally trying to avoid the word rum. I just thought casting spirits sounded better than casting rum. Casting rum seems like it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
Casting spirits had a nicer ring to it.
And
I'm also
spirits rum.
Yeah, you could do that. I'm not totally opposed to having spirits in the name.
Okay.
Not necessarily because I think we'll do something beyond rum, although, like, I don't know, maybe we do a cachaça or something someday. Who knows?
That's a good point. Yeah,
but,
I had intentionally gone away from using spirits as opposed to rum, even as hard as it is, as you mentioned. But I do like, spirits as a general kind of idea. Spirit animals.
Spirit animals.
Yeah. Well, so let me hit you with mine. It may be equally as bad in a different way. Mm-hmm. Or this is the weird thing about when you contemplate over names. You can convince yourself that something isn't that bad. Mm-hmm. Has this happened to you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Okay. Yeah. Even looking at my list now, it's like there's some stuff that initially I was like, oh, that's terrible. And then like I spend more time with it. I'm like, oh, maybe it's kind of interesting. And then you get to the point of having to share it on a podcast with thousands of people listening, and you're like, oh wait, no, this idea is total shit. We should also make clear, like, this is pure brainstorm. We want you to hear the bad ideas. So, there's a degree of embarrassment and shyness here, but we're powering through it.
Agreed. All right. So I was trying, like you, to find a way to get somehow the podcast involved. And although it crossed my mind, and I'll be fair that rapid fire rum did cross my mind.
I had the same thing. I was talking about this with Samantha. We went to just a neighborhood bar on a Friday at the end of the work week a few weeks ago, and I was telling her that you and I were starting to brainstorm names, and she was like, well, "Show me what you have." And so I was showing her some of my awful ideas, and I showed her like the casting name, and I was trying to think of something related to the podcast, but it's kind of hard to do. And she was like, she actually said, what about like rapid fire rum or something like that? And I was like, first of all, fuck that, because that's just John's thing. So yeah, I'm not.
I knew that part.
More me needs to be involved in that. But I wrote
Will
rapid fire
rum.
I wrote rapid fire rum down, and then I was like, I don't love like rapid fire in this context for some reason.
I don't either.
And so I wrote lightning round rum down as well, which I think is probably equally bad, but I was just trying to come up with a different spin on it.
Yeah. I agree with you, actually. It's a well-known maybe part of the show, which I'm proud of, but it really doesn't encapsulate the show, right?
Yeah.
So that was the weird thing, not only to mention just rapid fire rum. I like the alliteration on it, but I don't like anything much else about it. So that led me to this one, which was, again, little on the nose here. But you're gonna have to sit with it for a little bit.
I will wait 5 seconds before reacting. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, for this purpose, you can give me your immediate reaction. Clearly, that's what we want. But I'm just saying, sit with it after this for a little bit. Okay. And that is Rumcast Reserve. And what I see from this is it's a little bit interesting because it's got Rumcast in the title. It implies something that we have a product, something reserved, right, that we're going to do. And I think it could be very versatile. So there's an interesting thing there where I almost think you could add a sub name here.
Yes.
And it would be Rumcast Reserve Episode 1.
Okay,
for the first bottle. Yeah.
On the note of sub names, first of all, so I intentionally, I know you wanted my instant reaction, but I intentionally just waited a few seconds to take it all in, because I think a lot of times when you want to react instantly, it's just like, it's too knee jerk, right?
Yeah.
Which can be good sometimes to get that reaction. But I think that's the best possible option to do for a name that includes Rumcast.
Right.
Like,
I agree.
Reserve somehow works. First of all, there's the nice alliteration, but then I think just it makes it sound more interesting, I think. It makes me interested in what's in the bottle, but also interested in what's in the Rumcast, which, I'd love for more people to discover the show through this. So, and yes, the idea of sub-names, like I want to do a little name for each release, even if it is just like episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. I'm not saying we have to do like Foursquare ECS style, unobtainium or whatever for whatever the release is. Whatever kind of word we want to use. I don't want to be breaking out the dictionaries and thesauruses for this. But so I'm going to be honest. I think that's a solid name candidate.
It's the only one I felt proud of on this list. And in terms of like sitting with it and being like, I could see that working.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
I don't know yet if I really love it, but when you couple it with the kind of the episode 1 idea, I think it even sparks a little bit more of like, the people that know are already going to know. Like, that's, this is the Rumcast, doing something. Yeah. The people that don't, to your point, I like the idea of them saying, I wonder what this is. And I guess we should also talk about this, we didn't mention, but I don't think this is going to be something that's going to end up on a shelf anyway. Right?
It's going to end up on digital shelves. So
right.
I think especially the first release is going to be something that is probably exclusively bought by people who already listen to the Rumcast, because you're going to be the first ones to know about it.
Yeah.
And we like our goal, like we are not going to do this unless we can sell this online direct to consumers. So we're not trying to get into a bunch of different states. We've started conversations with partners who can help us make this a reality, get this rum into a store that can ship to a lot of states. Right. I know we have listeners, a good amount of listeners who are not in the United States, and we would love nothing more than for this to be available to everyone everywhere. But, in the interest of managing expectations, I think it's really only going to be practical for this to be a U.S. only release. Maybe in the future we can find ways to do more, but for this one, our goal is to get it in an online store that can ship to 40 plus states. And there are some routes to do that we think are available to us, and we'll probably talk through all that type of stuff on a future episode. So yeah, good digression there. Rumcast Reserve episode 1. Yeah, I like episode is cool. kind of subtitle idea. And I don't like this name. I don't like the first half of this name at all. The subtitle name kind of, it works a lot like episode 1, but I was thinking of like Rum Tales Chapter 1, that kind of thing. So I don't really like Rum Tales. That just doesn't have a ring to it.
You need a Rum Tales.
Yeah. It makes me think of like Animal Tales for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So maybe we go with A Tale of Rum, Chapter 1.
A Tale of Rum is a little better. You know, we had, you know, in all
A Song of Rum and Fire.
We're gonna get a knock on the door for that one.
Yeah.
You know,
rum comes up in the A Song of Ice and Fire books a few times.
Really?
Yeah. Huh. There's references to rum.
As big a Lord of the Rings fan as I am, you'd think that I have read through A Song of Ice and Fire. I have not.
Okay. Yeah, I read through the series maybe a couple years ago. That might have been a pandemic read. Yeah, very, very good. Anyway.
Speaking of fantasy, I did have Rum Forge as one.
Rum Forge.
But then I was like, we're not making it. If we were making it, I would feel better about that. But we're not making it. So,
right.
Yeah.
Forged from Cain.
Cain forged.
So on the note of stories of rum and that sort of thing, I was trying to think of names that were along the lines of, well, we're trying to tell a story about this rum, right? And like, it's kind of an eye-rolly thing because every brand is like, oh, we're trying to tell a story, you know, because stories do resonate with people. There's a reason why brands want to do that, because stories are interesting and they work when they're genuine and authentic. But I wanted to speak to the idea of like, you can like literally listen along to the story of this bottle. So I was trying to think of something that incorporates the notion of travel, of doing what we do on this podcast, having conversations, that sort of thing. And so I came up with something that has alliteration and has kind of a double entendre in a little bit of an interesting way. This is one of those names where I'm like, I kind of like this, but I don't know. So the idea is Ramblers Rum. So ramble in the sense of we talk, right? We ramble about rum. But also rambling is kind of like it's a word for a fun journey, sort of. You know, we're going to be rambling across the sea over to Europe, and hopefully future releases, if we are able to do future releases, there will be other travels and stuff to take people on. So that was the idea behind that.
And it's not bad. I think the only connotation that kind of comes to mind when I hear that is this is a spirits company or distillery that is doing different products, and like it's Ramblers Rum and it's Better's Bourbon and it's, you know, like for some reason it gives me that feel.
It's like a craft distillery that's doing a bunch of different things.
That's what I was trying to say. Yes.
Okay.
And also, is it Smooth Ambler?
Yeah, Smooth Ambler. Revelation Rum, I think they did. Yeah. That was like
it's in that vein. It's in that area to me, which is again not terrible. But
I worried that it sounded a little bit.
On its own.
It sounded a little, something about it sounded a little bit bourbony to me.
It does.
I don't. Is Rambler like kind of a southern word? Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know.
It just gives me those vibes. It's like
it does give me a bourbon company's rum vibe.
Yeah, I think of that, and I think of the great Led Zeppelin song "Ramble On," which is a good connotation. But anyway, that was probably like as close as I got to something where I was like, this sounds like, even if this wasn't our name, it sounds like it could be a successful brand name. You know, I think it works, right? There was also in the vein of, you know, rum's global nature, that sort of thing. And, you know, one of the things that we talk about a lot on the podcast is there's a rum for like every situation, right? Every time of the year, every palate that you have out there, there's a rum out there for you. And so I was trying to think of something that conveys that, right, in the name, because I think that's something that as there are more releases in this, if we get to that point, that's, I think, something that could be a goal for the range to convey. It's like, hey, you might not like all of these, but you can find something in here, right? So the name that I wrote down that I thought worked the best was All Seasons Rum, like a rum for all seasons, basically. And then I did some Googling, and there's literally a company called All Seasons Whiskey, which I believe claims to be the best-selling whiskey in New Delhi, actually. So, But like there were also a bunch of there's like a bunch of little, restaurants and things named All Seasons. So I was like, maybe this is just like a cheesy ass name. Like once I saw how many people were using it,
I think there's some appeal there, which is why it is used as often as it is.
Right.
And I actually kind of think a rum for all seasons is a kind of cool phrase.
Yeah, I know. I like
if you
that
were
as well.
doing for a year, hey, perfect. So that would be one thing. Yeah.
Something else that I thought, we like the subtitle thing. So you could almost think of a Rum for All Seasons as like a series name, right? And each release, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel when I taste a rum, almost 100% of the time, there's a time of year that I can connect the flavors to. Like this tastes like a fall rum, or this tastes like a winter rum. This tastes like a summer rum, a spring rum. Just different rums just speak to me that way. And so what I was thinking was, I bet each like when we pick a rum, maybe we both are like, wow, this rum just tastes like summer, or this rum tastes like winter, or whatever. Yeah. And so it could be like a Rum for All Seasons winter or something like that. The problem with that is then the timing, like, do we want to wait like 6 months or whatever so that this comes out in winter?
Exactly.
That kind of thing. So, but
Yeah.
I do like that idea. I think it's kind of cool and interesting. And it also, I think it creates interest around like, ooh, like I want to get the summer one, or I want to get the winter one, that kind of thing. But again, like you said, we're just probably at most doing one a year. So it's kind of hard to do that. But if we were going to do 4 a year, that's a pretty damn good idea. By the way, just public service announcement, I know we're coming up with a lot of brilliant, amazing ideas throughout this episode. Just honor code, no stealing the names. Just be cool,
come on.
Okay? Don't run out there, buy the domain names, trademark the stuff. This is an open brainstorm where there's a circle of trust here that we're asking people not to break. So I know it might be tempting because we've come up with several billion-dollar names, I think, so far, John. But I'm just kindly asking people to, be cool.
Agreed. So I had some similar thoughts on the journey aspect of it, and some things that I was trying to circle around that I thought might be interesting, just as a name that I also feel pretty strongly a good brand name has to roll off the tongue.
Yes.
It has.
That's why I hated Rum Tales. That does not roll off the tongue.
Right. It has to feel right, for lack of a better way of putting it, when you say it or when you think it. Chronicle rum seems interesting to me. And chronicle is a word, but it also is so nondescript that I feel like it kind of gets lost a little.
Yeah. I like the word. The word chronicle is interesting, and I think fun to say, kind of.
Yeah.
But when I hear chronicle rum, it just sounds kind of generic and nondescript, I think.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
These are all our bad
ideas and our good ones.
Rum Chronicles sounds a little better, but
it
also makes me think of like it's trying to. It's like the Rum Diary was already taken, and so we did Rum Chronicles.
Yeah. I had how about one sojourning? So I can't even say it right. Sojourning palates, or something.
Palates.
Yeah. So, or I don't know. I was trying to get some sort of a travel aspect of it, of like, hey, the global aspect that you talked about. Of like, how can you like bring that in a way? And it didn't work.
What about searching palettes? I feel like that's a little more.
Palettes. Yeah,
it's a little tighter. I don't know.
Not there. Yeah.
The word palette in the name, I feel like is kind of. It almost makes it sound pretentious by default.
Yeah.
Or like we think of ourselves as like, oh, we have these amazing discerning
That's what
palettes.
I was trying to avoid.
Yeah,
exactly.
That kind of thing.
But yeah, I don't know. So I had those. One that I think you'll find fun. Are you a Princess Bride fan, Will?
The Princess Bride is funny. It's a classic. I've probably only seen it like probably twice in my life. So like I saw it, I thought it was funny, but I'm not the type of person who just will quote it endlessly and be like, oh, it's one of the greatest movies ever. It's funny. It's a classic. It's not in my top 20 or anything, but
okay.
Sure, I can appreciate it.
I don't know if it's in my top 20 either, but I do think it's a well-crafted movie and unique.
Sure.
They have rodents of unusual size, and I had rums of unusual origin.
I like that it's like a little descriptor on the bottle, like a tagline almost,
Yeah.
I feel like. But I
that
also
could be, yeah.
I think that kind of boxes us
does.
into having to do unexpected countries and things like that, which
Agreed.
if that happens, of course, like that would be cool to find something from an unexpected place that we love, but I don't want to force it,
Agreed. I'm with you there.
So I was trying to think more around like what do we talk a lot? What are phrases and things we say a lot on the show or come up in rum enthusiast conversations? And the phrase rum journey gets brought up all the time. Like, what started you on your rum journey? Where are you on your rum journey? And so I was like, Rum Journey Spirits. It doesn't have that ring to it. Like we were saying,
Yeah.
It's like its heart is in the right place, but it just ultimately I don't think works. So I was trying to think of something else like that. And I think this does have a ring to it, but I don't think I like it. I know I don't like it. But a phrase that comes up a lot with rum is the rabbit hole, right? Like you're tumbling down the rum rabbit hole. And so I wrote down rabbit hole rum. I was like, I feel like this is a little too anatomically suggestive,
Well, there's Rabbit Hole Bourbon, which is
is there really?
Huge brand. Yes.
Didn't even know that.
Yes. Am I making that up? Hold on. Now
I don't know.
Just, like Google.
I don't recall seeing that in stores, but I don't, I'm not locked in on the bourbon section.
Yeah, Rabbit Hole is a big brand now. They're doing a lot. So
well, see, my
Hole
idea,
Rum,
it was a good idea because it's working for someone. So
yeah, yep. Rabbit Hole Distillery also bourbon and whiskey. Yeah. So yeah, they're cool. They got a cool bottle shape also. It's a little distinct. And from what I hear, I haven't bought a bottle, but I've heard from other bourbonites that it's good stuff. So.
I was just sitting over here like, does this make people think too much of a rabbit's butthole? That was my concern of it. Not is someone else using this already.
I can see the visual trademark now.
Oh my God. New phrase uttered on the podcast. That's a new one. I'm trying to think if there's anything else worth. I did write down fantastic rums because you like the word fantastic.
I do like
the John
the word
Gullah fantastic.
I've made an effort not to overuse it, but yes.
Well, that's why I'm saying it needs to be. It's like the Hollywood handshake. It loses its oomph,
right?
Its prestige if it's used all the time. So
exactly,
use sparingly. So fantastic rums. I think that could be in there. Again, I'm a little annoyed that
the Google search engine is going to do terrible with that. Yeah.
I'm a little annoyed that it's 100% your thing, kind of like rapid fire rum would be. Yeah. There's not enough me in this name, and my ego must be fed. So that one's not going to work.
I had some other alliterative like reflection rum and reputation rum, but that doesn't work.
Okay.
Just throwing the really bad stuff out there.
Sure, yeah, let's get it all out. I had people say my favorite rum is the one in my glass. I wrote down the one in my glass.
The one in my glass.
Like the one in my glass.
Could you acronym
it's such a
that?
mouthful.
TOIMG? No, that doesn't work as an acronym either. Sometimes that'll come together.
You could almost get to OMG. One my glass. If
OMG
you take out,
rum.
If you take out the and in, it's OMG rum.
OMG rum.
The one in my glass. That was one. And then I also had riffing off of the idea of there being a rum for everyone. I wrote down a rum for everyone.
Gosh, no, that's terrible. That sounds like a prom name somehow, like a theme.
Yeah, it does. It's not good. It's not good, John.
No, it's not good. I had my Latin, language.
I knew there'd be at least one Latin suggestion from you. I'm prepared for it.
So I was trying to hit something like annual release, and the word is annum.
Annum.
Or annular. It's just like a ring.
Okay.
Neither one of those sounds good. Could you imagine annum rum?
Annum rum. Yeah, that's a little stuff.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. But I do like the phrase, and I have it in my office hanging, Fortuna fortem adjuvat, which is a famous phrase, fortune favors the bold.
Okay.
And Fortuna rum sounds kind of cool.
Fortuna, as in this rum was made for the fish?
Yeah, it's Fortuna. Also for people. but Fortuna rum doesn't sound too bad to me. And it's,
rum.
it's fortune rum. I don't know that it connects at all to anything else, which is the problem.
Yeah.
But I
I
could
hear you
see
there.
that
I could
being
see
a
that.
name.
I
Yeah.
could see that on a bottle.
Right.
I don't think it's on our bottle though.
No.
Oh, there was an idea that. Oh yeah, we're talking about Annam. What if we just called it Rum of the Year?
That's so low effort.
Rum of the Year. There we go.
Roti.
I think we're done here. Again, we're getting all the dumb, silly ideas out.
Yeah.
I think we've landed on a few interesting things. I think Rumcast Reserve. If people were like, you have to pick something right now from this episode, that's I think what I would pick. Anything else stand out to you?
I didn't write it down, but I still like the idea of exploring more of the global breadth and depth of rum, and how we could maybe find something that ties into that a little bit more. Obviously, global rum is not it,
Right.
but something that has some semblance of that in it, but also gives a unique way of saying it.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I like that idea from you. I didn't write down anything else that I thought was like, ooh, that sounds amazing.
I wrote down, and I don't think this is right, and this strikes me as a name that has probably been used already, but I wrote down, and it doesn't have rum in it, because I don't think it sounds good with rum in it. It sounds better with the word spirits in it. I wrote down mosaic spirits, the idea of, looking back at this series, like if we do more of these, almost like it appearing like a mosaic,
Yeah.
That's kind of how I was thinking about it. But again, I don't know. It just doesn't... I feel like it doesn't have enough of a connection to what we're doing, right? And I still, I kind of crave that a little bit, which is why at the end of the day, I would be good with something like Rumcast Reserve. And
Tapestry rum.
Tapestry. That always makes me think of that line from the movie A Christmas
Indiana
Story.
Jones?
No,
Okay.
A Christmas Story, where he says his dad wove a tapestry of profanities. I think it's when he's like trying to fix the furnace
That's
or
a great
whatever.
line. Yeah.
It's burned into my brain because my dad would quote that all the time.
I was thinking, if you are a tapestry expert, then I am Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. Oh, I also wrote down, again, I don't think this is right, and it almost sounds a little bit like we think too much of ourselves, I think. But I wrote down...
It's hard to avoid that. Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote down vicarious spirits, because it's almost like, you're getting to go along with us, the fly on the wall kind of thing. But I don't know. It almost kind of sounds like implied, like, wouldn't it be awesome to be us? That kind of thing, which, like, come on.
It's awful.
Exactly. Yeah. So want to get away from that. I think we've given ourselves some food for thought. I would also love to hear from listeners if this sparked any ideas for you or directions you think we should sniff in as we explore what to arrive at for this name. Send us an email, host@rumcast.com. That's HOST@rumcast.com. Or you can find us on social media. As always, John, where can they find us?
At the Rumcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. And, leave us the comment. Talk about if you have some... I think we would probably prefer you just DM us or email us if you really have a good idea.
Yeah.
But, comments on where you think, like you mentioned, Will, where we should be headed with this, or any kind of... Basically, we're looking for some advice, right? Something that might help us to keep thinking of this in perhaps one of the directions we already said, or in a new way.
Yeah. We'd love to hear your thoughts, advice, counsel, whatever. Yeah, so hit us up. And again, we're going to be doing more of these episodes. Like we said, we're going to Main Rum at the end of January.
Yep.
So there's a bunch of stuff we're sorting through right now beyond just the name. We're thinking through what we're going to do for shipping, what we're going to do for bottling, labeling.
Labels,
We're working on our per bottle cost. We got a great spreadsheet from a friend of the podcast, which I'm sure we'll discuss. Actually, shout out to John Shu from Raising Glasses, who's been a great resource for us, just out of the goodness of his heart as we've embarked on this journey. So there's going to be a lot more to come. And
right, all that is even before we take the trip, right?
Yeah,
so then,
yeah.
Hopefully you'll get more information during, what some of the stuff we do during the trip, and then of course afterwards, as we kind of start to have to stitch this thing together and deal with the good and the bad that comes from it.
And also let us know what aspects of this you want to know more about. So if there's some aspect of this journey that you're curious about, that you want to make sure we cover, that you have questions about, send us an email, DM, whatever, let us know. And we will try to work it in somehow if we can. So I think that's it for this episode, John. As we said, we will be back to regularly scheduled programming, Rumcasty type episodes after this episode. So, keep an eye out for future episodes in this series. We got to come up with a name for this series now, John. So yeah, maybe we need to do that too. We can do that offline though. So anyway, thanks everyone for listening as always, and we will be back soon.
Adventures in rum casking.
That's it. You magnificent bastard, you've done it.